Welcome. Thank you for joining us for an exciting 3-day kickoff event that marks a new chapter in military veteran student support at Golden Gate University. This is an important moment for the school, and as you'll see, it's one that I expect will provide tremendous support for our military students and their families. This has been a trying year, as everyone knows. Educating students and connecting with our alumni has been challenging in a virtual environment. Indeed, in an ideal world, we would be opening a physical Veterans Center at our main campus, along with this wonderful virtual community. But we have had to be adaptive this year, something Golden Gate has been very good at for over the past century. Since we were founded more than 100 years ago, GGU has survived pandemics, wars, and a myriad of other disruptions. Through it all, we have displayed resilience and adaptability. The fact that we are here now, launching this new center to support our veterans and active duty military, should surprise no one. GGU has been steadfastly committed to supporting adult learners from the very beginning, welcoming veterans into the school after the First and Second World Wars. Under President Otto leadership in the 1970s and 1980s, GGU was a leader in this arena, offering programs on military installations nationwide. As a result, GGU has a large and distinguished base of military veteran alumni. Now it's time for a new era of veteran support. For the last year, we've been assessing the history of our military programs, the current veterans experience at GGU, and the potential for growth. What we found is that while GGU provides a strong and welcoming educational experience for veterans, there are areas where we can do even better. Central to that effort is our new Helen Diller Center for Veterans of U.S. Military Service at Golden Gate University. With a generous contribution from the Helen Diller Foundation, we're building a hub that offers veterans, who now number more than 700 students at GGU, a full spectrum of services that makes them feel uniquely supported from the moment they first contact the university. This will include a special online community, coaching to veterans, nurturing relationships with nonprofits and agency partners, and developing and managing key Department of Defense and VA relationships, among many other things. I'm confident that this will establish a national model for enhanced virtual learning communities for veterans. Many people are working tirelessly behind the scenes on this, evidence of our strong commitment. You'll meet some of them over the next few days, along with staff and alumni who will share their perspectives. I'm proud of our distinguished history of supporting veteran students, and I look forward to standing apart from all of our peers in this important arena. Enjoy the online sessions and discussions to come. Thank you for joining us.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Tillman, Operations Manager at the Diller Center for Veterans of U.S. Military Service. Let me add my welcome to President Fikes. We're really delighted to have you here. Today, we celebrate GGU's tradition of service to the military. It's a tradition that dates back more than 100 years. We'll spend some time hearing from alumni and faculty who are veterans, and we'll get a glimpse into GGU's structure and the approach that it was using to teach military students around the country and actually around the world. By the end, I think you'll have a really strong sense of just how deep Golden Gate's connection to the military runs and why the university continues to invest in this really wonderful community. Before we get going, I want to encourage you to participate in this session. You can add comments right here in the Facebook Live event. And if you'd like to have some fun with it, we'd suggest that maybe you start by letting everybody know what year you graduated, if you're an alum, what degree you got, or if you're not an alum, just how you're connected to Golden Gate in the military. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you enjoy the day. And speaking of alumni, let's start with a little bit of a history lesson and some nostalgia.
Originally founded as a night school by the YMCA, Golden Gate University has a rich tradition of serving military veterans. This connection began in earnest in the early 1900s, when returning World War I veterans enrolled in the university's law programs. That first wave of veterans was followed 30 years later by large numbers of World War II veterans enrolling in the university's new management, accounting, and insurance program. The largest, and by far most sustained engagement with the military started in 1967, when the base education officer at Hamilton Air Force Base invited the university to establish educational programs on the installation. The convenience and quality of the program led to overwhelming success. Satisfied students and administrators spread the word, and by 1988, the university was offering programs on 24 military installations, from the Presidio to Edwards Air Force Base and as far afield as Guantanamo Bay and Norfolk Navy Air Station. All of these operations were formalized into an academic unit called the College of Special Programs. Otto, who was president of Golden Gate from 1970 to 1992, championed GGU's expansion to military installations. He also felt that it was important for graduating students to be personally congratulated by the president of the university, and thus attended dozens of graduation ceremonies at installations around the country, eventually conferring degrees to more than 30,000 military students. In fact, it may surprise some to know that 4 astronauts are Golden Gate University graduates, along with multiple generals, including General John Jumper, the former Air Force Chief of Staff, and General John Campbell, who served as the Army Vice Chief of Staff and Commander of U.S. forces in Afghanistan. It is an exceptionally distinguished group of graduates. Today, Golden Gate University is entering its 4th wave of engagement with the military community. Led by recent veterans, Golden Gate's military enrollment has grown from less than 200 students to nearly 1,000 students in just a few years. What's surprising is that this growth has come almost entirely through word of mouth, with satisfied students telling their peers about Golden Gate. Today, thanks to a grant from the Helen Diller Foundation, the university matches military students' excitement with services and initiatives delivered through the Helen Diller Center for Veterans of U.S. Military Service. The center is rolling out onboarding and career coaching to students, as well as military benefits counseling and special events for the military community at Golden Gate. The center will also reestablish connections with military installations around the country while engaging leading national veteran service organizations to support military students at Golden Gate. Today, Golden Gate University's military community is as vibrant as ever, and we look forward to a bright future. Learn more at military.ggu.edu.
Now, wasn't that fun? The late 1980s and early 1990s were a very important era in GGU's military history, but GGU's engagement with the military was only part of the story. So in the next segment, we're going to step back for a few minutes and get some context. What was happening at GGU more broadly in those days, and who was making it happen? James Krusling, GGU's librarian, sat down with Frank Felicelli, who's a member of GGU's Board of Trustees, and with Mike Kapersky, GGU's Director of Business Services, to learn more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our discussion about putting GGU's military heyday in context. I'm James Krusling, the University Librarian at GGU, and I'll be posing some questions today to 2 gentlemen with long histories with the university. Frank Felicelli is a member of Golden Gate University's Board of Directors. Welcome, Frank. And Mike Kapersky is the Director of Business Services and Facilities at GGU. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, James.
Let's move right into some questions for our guests. Frank, what was your journey to Golden Gate University, and what did you study when you were there?
I'd say my journey was fairly similar to that of most students that enter GGU, and that is I was looking for the ability to enhance my career, a better life for myself and my family. And I had just moved from Chicago to San Francisco and joined a bank that was generous enough to reimbursed me for my education. It was a great experience from that standpoint. And in terms of what I studied, I did get a Master's of Business Administration degree in finance and a specialty in financial planning, which was, it's very common now, but at that time back in the early 80s, it was relatively new and an exciting area to pursue.
What do you remember about the university at that time? What was happening in the culture when you were a student, for example?
It was the early 1980s and a very exciting time, both personally and for the university. The university experienced a rapid growth. It had a great and diverse student population. I had the opportunity on a cohort basis to work with people from all walks of life. Many people were going to the university were under the GI Bill, for example.
Did you have any professors who made an impression on you while you were studying?
Yes, one in particular, I'd say. His name was Hank Pruden, and he was a finance professor who specialized in what was called technical analysis as opposed to fundamental analysis. And he was one of the fathers of technical analysis when it came to analyzing investments and securities. And we remained lifelong friends. Unfortunately, he passed away a short while ago, but he was a great mentor and a great educator. And one thing I would just add to that is one of the reasons I was very attracted to Golden Gate University is many of the classes were taught by practitioners as opposed to just pure academics. I learned things that were battle tested as opposed to just academic theory. And for me, that was a great experience and one of the reasons why I joined Golden Gate in particular.
Excellent. Yeah, Hank was a really wonderful man. We have a research guide dedicated to him on the Business Library's webpage. So excellent. Mike, we're obviously here talking about GGU's connection to the military.
Right.
You have a connection to the military yourself. Can you tell us a little about that?
Sure, James. Actually, it's a minor connection. I was only on active duty for 21 years, so some would consider that not a full career, but I certainly spent my fair share of time traveling around the world and doing a number of things while in the Air Force. I started on the enlisted side, and the Air Force was gracious enough to send me back to school through the Airman Education and Commissioning Program to get my degree. And once I hung up the blue suit, I was pulled towards GGU. I remember seeing Golden Gate prominently displayed on a number of the bases that I had either been stationed at or passed through over the years. We were at Travis, we were at Vandenberg, just to name a couple. And so when a career opportunity opened up at Golden Gate, I thought this is a great place to be. The folks always impressed me as being dedicated and concerned about the students and about the GIs. And as I said, I interviewed. It was a positive experience. I enjoyed all the activity leading up to being hired. And here I am 30 years later thinking about whether I'm going to make this one a career or not.
Excellent. And what role are you playing at the university today, Mike?
Today, I'm the Director of Business Services, Facilities, and Administration. That's a long-winded way of saying my department and we handle most of the back office stuff that happens at GGU. We take care of everything from insurance to the mail operations to housekeeping to safety, security, a lot of the behind-the-scenes activities that keep GGU running.
Excellent. Aside from today's really remarkable growth in military enrollment at GGU, I understand that the prior heyday was in the late 1980s, early 1990s. What do you remember about the university at that time, and how were things structured to serve the military?
Actually, the folks may not realize that Golden Gate was on, I would say, 20 to 25 military bases back in the 80s. And we had an organization at Golden Gate called the College of Special Programs that had a separate dean assigned to manage those programs. And we, through the College of Special Programs, were able to work with not only the VA, but the base education offices across the country. As I mentioned, we were at Vandenberg, we were at Travis here in California, and a few other California bases. And even as far as the East Coast, as Virginia, and a few locations in Florida. So we were cross country, and the College of Special Programs managed those operations. The military was prime focus for them, and we did everything in our power to not only serve all of these organizations, these separate education centers, but we did everything we could to serve all the students when they came to San Francisco, either to attend graduation or during the semester if they had an occasion to come in for a class or whatever was required. So the CSP, the College of Special Programs, was totally focused on the military at Golden Gate.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a really interesting time. Frank, turning back to you for a moment, Otto Butts was a major figure at the university at that time. He was the university's president. What do you remember about him?
It's hard not to remember him. He was a very fascinating and wonderful individual. And as Mike had mentioned earlier, a very real part of the history and growth of the university. And what I do remember is my first meeting with him, and that was when I was trying to make a decision as to which school I would attend for business school at that time. He offered to meet with me. And normally see a president of a university offering to meet with a prospective student. Certainly he was the only one that offered to do that. And we had a great conversation. He listened, he understood what my needs were, what my desires were, and he made it happen. And if you look at the history of the university and its growth, especially as it relates to the military, he was a large part of the phenomenal growth and rich experience with vets in the military. You may or may not know this, but one of his board members was Caspar Weinberger, who served as Secretary of the Defense under the Reagan administration. And I think they were instrumental in achieving the success that the university realized during those years.
Yeah, it's really intriguing to me to hear not only the size of this footprint that Golden Gate University had with regard to all the military education at that time, but in addition to Caspar Weinberger, I've heard connections to astronauts and other really interesting people.
Generals, admirals, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent. And Mike, so I'm sure you're familiar with Otto Butts as well, and I'm curious about what you might remember about him.
I echo what Frank says. Otto was a tremendous individual, very people-focused. And what I found slightly unusual as well, as I mentioned, when I hired on at Golden Gate, Otto was president. And within the first day or two on the job, I got a call from his secretary, and she said, the president wants to see you. And I said, fine, I'll come up, give me the time, whatever. And she goes, no, Otto's going to come down to your office. And I said, okay. We made the appointment, and at the appointed time, he came down, and we had been friends for years. He just plopped in front of my desk, sat down, shook my hand. And at the time, people could smoke in the building, and people were smoking around and drinking coffee and having a good time in the workplace. And Otto just carried on a conversation, as I said, like we had been friends for many years. And what I found really heartening at that point was it wasn't just for me. Otto would come down to the department on a regular basis. Instead of sending somebody down with work that needed to be done for him or with requests for him, he would do it himself. He'd come on down, he'd come into our copy center or into the mail room, and he'd hand somebody a piece of mail that needed to go out, and he'd just chat with them like they were next door neighbors almost. And everybody really enjoyed working with Otto and for Otto. And he was just a great individual. He was also interested in everybody's career and wanted to make sure that you were not only doing your best job at Golden Gate, but doing things that would improve yourself for the future. He was a great mentor, a great leader, and he just had a huge impact on a lot of employees. Hats off to Otto after all these years. He was a great man to work with.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Frank, what has your journey been since graduating from GGU, and how have you remained involved with the university?
I just recently retired about a year and a half ago after spending 40 years in the investment management business, primarily with a major investment firm here in the Bay Area called Franklin Templeton. And I served in a variety of capacities, everything from a mutual fund manager to chief investment officer and CEO of one of Franklin's divisions. And I credit Golden Gate as being a very real part of my career path, assisting me in being able to move up the corporate ladder, so to speak, at Franklin Templeton. And when the opportunity arrived, I decided I wanted to be able to give back to the university, and I was approached about a board membership in 2000, and I served as trustee from 2000 to 2009. And when the opportunity arose again in 2015, I rejoined the board and have been there ever since. So it's been a great and rewarding journey, and my love for the university continues.
Excellent. It's interesting to hear how those kind of career paths mirror some of the great things I've read about the connection between GGU and the military and the ability for military personnel to move up in their own military careers and the things that they do afterward as well. Frank, do you have any hopes for the university as it moves toward the future?
James, I'm very excited about the future of the university. The university has always had a history of innovation and strong ties to the military and vets and the creation of the Diller Center, I think, is going to be instrumental in its future success in that regard. We have had many individuals over the years who have come to the university with military backgrounds who've been able to improve upon their careers in various ways. And one person that comes to mind is an ex-board member who I've had the privilege of knowing over the years, and his name is Richard Rosenberg. And he came to the university under the GI Bill, and with that earned both his MBA and law degree. And that helped him advance his career at a little institution known as Bank of America, where he was chairman and president during its heydays during the 80s and 90s. Like to think that the renewed focus on the military and vets through the Diller Center will allow for many other future successful opportunities, such as Mr. Rosenberg's.
Excellent. And on that wonderful note, I would like to thank our guests for sharing time with me today and our audience for tuning into this great discussion. Thank you, gentlemen.
How interesting was that? Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, James. I especially love the stories about Otto Butts. He was a real pivotal figure in the life of the university, as you can tell. Now, let's turn to the veterans themselves. GGU is very fortunate to have a truly illustrious group of military alumni. All of the services are well represented, and it's a group that's growing rapidly today. To celebrate the launch here of the Diller Center, we got a group of them together for a chat.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mick McGee. I am the program director for the Doctor of Business Administration program, also a full-time faculty member for the EMP program, the Public Administration program at Golden Gate University. I want to introduce briefly our two guests. Barbara Ward is a former director of the Center for Minority Veterans, Department of Veteran Affairs, and is currently the CEO of Ward Associates, LLC. She has lots of senior service, executive service experience, and I'm going to let her talk about that herself when I ask her to join us in this conversation. I want to introduce Daniel Tripp, a former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer who served for 12 years in the U.S. Air Force and as a veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom. He's currently a certified financial planning professional, holds a Master of Science degree in advanced financial planning, and is a financial planner professional for the Redwood Grove Wealth Management in Larkspur, California. I want to start first with you, Barbara. Tell us a little bit about your service history and how you found your way to Golden Gate University.
Thank you, Nick. I was a former Air Force nurse during the Vietnam War, and I served 2 years at Scott Air Force Base Medical Center. I found my way to Golden Gate University after going through a divorce and becoming a single parent and deciding that I wanted to ensure that my daughters and my future would be secure financially. And one way that I saw to do that would be to continue with my education and to get my master's degree. So based on my independent research looking at the universities in the local area in California at the time, I ended up making my decision to go to Golden Gate University. And that really was influenced by the reputation of the school, the quality of the faculty members, the curriculum. I just heard overwhelming, very positive comments about the university, and so that's how I ended up there.
Okay, and you got a master's of public administration in health services management from Golden Gate University. What did you study
Yes.
while you were at Golden Gate University?
Most of my courses were in the healthcare field because of my Bachelor of Science degree in nursing, and my goal was to work in healthcare administration. So with it being a focus in public administration, there was quite a bit of curriculum that focused on public policy, the legislative processes, and issues of that nature, along with courses that were specifically focused on healthcare.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what was your experience like? Can you recall what was that like being a full-time mom and a full-time professional in the various positions you were performing?
Actually, I remember my educational experience at Golden Gate University extremely well because it was a very rewarding experience. And it occurred at a relatively challenging time in my life. I was working as a full-time nurse at a local hospital, and then I was a single parent as well. The experience was great because Golden Gate University at the time had a special office that was set up to pamper and work with veterans. So if you had any issues, they fully understood and appreciated what your barriers were, challenges were, but they took a lot of time helping you to resolve those issues. I remember it so well that I actually remember the person who was over that office. Her name was Janet Bowman. One of the things that I also appreciated about Golden Gate was that it was very accommodating in terms of my being in Sacramento. We're in the campus. The main campus was in San Francisco, so there were local satellite campuses that were in the Sacramento area. So that really accommodated my full-time work schedule.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because we're all in the virtual learning mode right now with COVID-19. So you took your classes at a satellite campus in Sacramento. Was there a need to go to the main campus at Golden Gate University?
No, there never was because most of the classes were held on campus at a satellite branch, typically at the military bases. So it was either at Mesa Air Force Base, Travis Air Force Base, or McClellan Air Force Base.
Who were your other students? Who were your colleagues during that time period?
That was one of the things that made my experience really rewarding. A lot of the students were active duty military members. A lot of them were veterans like myself. And it was just very diverse in terms of skill sets and knowledge base, because you may have students that were in their 40s or 50s that were older, that were really seasoned, experienced senior leaders, and they added a lot to the discussions that we had, especially when we talked about public policy related issues.
Yeah. I think we have that similar situation with many of our cohort in our classes now, where that the adult learning experience is shared by a diverse demographic of different students from public, private, and nonprofit sector organizations. So it's one of the things that I really like about my experience as well. So what has been your path since leaving Golden Gate University?
I credit Golden Gate University with me having such a successful career, especially given that I found that sometimes you don't anticipate having some challenges once you've gotten your degree, you've gotten a position that's sort of your dream job. You just didn't envision during that time organizations would size or downsize, which was the term that was used at that particular time. And because of my having achieved my master's degree, it made me very competitive in the workplace, so that when I went through my first layoff, I was very quickly able to find another position, actually higher level in terms of senior leadership, as well as a much higher paying salary. And because of Golden Gate University, I think it created, giving me the background, experience, and the skill sets, as well as the very diverse knowledge base in healthcare that prepared me for all of the senior leadership positions that I have held. I have had 2 political appointments for the state of California, and just before I retired, I had a political appointment in the federal government working with the Department of Veterans Affairs. So most of my experience has been in senior leadership, and I do credit that with the preparation that I received from Golden Gate University.
Thank you, Barbara. I have a couple more questions, but I do want to thank you in front of all the people that are watching and listening this recording, and that we have leaned on you several times to guide and to mentor some of our continuing students in their research, and that you had these positions in terms of concerns for minorities, and especially for minority women in the services. And you've been able to provide a lot of support for these students as they worked on their research project. So thank you out loud and in public from me. 2 more questions for you, Barbara. And have you been able to keep up with any of your classmates from that time period?
No, I have not. When I was still in California, I did keep up with a couple of my classmates, but then I relocated to the D.C. area in 2012 for my political appointment and sort of lost track with them.
Okay. And the final question, do you have any advice for current or future students that you'd like to provide?
Yes, I do. The first bit of advice that I'd like to give to students, especially for military veterans, is to make sure that you take advantage of your military benefits. When I decided to go to Golden Gate University, I had the added pressure of needing to finish my degree within 2 years because I was under the old GI Bill, wherein if you didn't use your GI benefit within 10 years of leaving the military, that you would actually lose that benefit. And I think it's really important for veterans to understand how great a benefit that is for you to advance your career as well as your educational goals. My second bit of advice would be, just as you had referenced earlier, once you are successful and you have left Golden Gate, I would encourage students to always reach back to serve as a mentor to help other students so that you can bring them along and to be the future leaders in our society. And the third lesson or piece of advice I'd like to give students, because I went through this myself, when you go through your curriculum, oftentimes you are faced with taking courses that you may not feel that will be of value to you and that you're not necessarily interested in. I took far more interest in healthcare related courses than I did in public policy courses. However, I was struck to find that when I went for interviews, especially for state positions or federal government positions, it was a lot of the information that I gained from the curriculum throughout my course offering and degree information. So I would really encourage students to understand that all of those courses are relevant and that you may need them when you are actually least expected.
Okay. That's great advice. Thank you so much, Barbara, for
Mm-hmm.
those thoughtful comments. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Daniel, let's turn to you and ask you very similar questions. So, tell us a little bit about your service history and how did you find your way to Golden Gate University?
Well, I joined the Air Force 2005 after college. I actually joined as an enlisted member. And then I became an officer in 2009, served in Afghanistan in 2012, and then finished my career. Part of my career, went into the reserves at the later end of my career. And eventually I came to a point in my career where I was just looking for a change. I had been at an inflection point deciding whether I should pursue the military career for the entirety of my adult life or should I do something different. And I just felt like there was a calling to do something different. And so I decided that after doing some career focus and working with a career counselor, I was going to become a financial planner. And I had a connection here in San Francisco Bay Area. And I moved out here, and then I was doing some research on figuring out the best program for becoming a financial planner. And right away, Golden Gate University just instantly popped up in San Francisco. It just had the perfect program. It was downtown. It was close to the financial district. And the professors were all within the industry. So I just really felt like it was the right fit at the right time. Yeah, I was a career-changing professional. I had the benefits of the GI Bill, which is an absolute wonderful gift for military members. Yeah, so that's how I came to Golden Gate University.
Okay, I see from your biography that you hold a Master's of Science in Advanced Financial Planning with a concentration in tax from Golden Gate University. That is such an interesting discipline. What do you recall about your studies? You mentioned just a little bit about it just now, but what do you recall about your professors or the course of study that you might be able to just recall
Sure,
for us?
Yeah, I think the courses at Golden Gate University for me were, what struck me is like the practicality. There's a lot of professors working in the career field that are teaching you the latest information about what's out there. What struck me is the fact that most of my professors were practitioners in one form or another. And I really felt like the information they were providing was very valuable and salient to actually getting and doing the job of a financial planner. So I just really felt like it was information that would help me increase my skills and challenge me. And so eventually I could go out and find a job in my industry. So I was really struck by the fact that there was a diverse set of courses for me. I took personal financial planning courses, tax, investment, insurance. I took core requirements, which were pretty diverse, a bunch of different electives. My training was primarily in business. tax, investments, and personal financial management, but I've also spanned into some other areas on the electives that I end up taking. And all of those have proved valuable as I've moved forward in my career. I just remember thinking, this is like a really great opportunity, for somebody who's looking for a change in their career and looking to get actionable skills to get a job in something different.
Yeah. So that just reminded me, just ask you to, because you talked about it being a practice based, and I'm wondering if there was any specific course or program where you were hands on in some like investments, or did you have a course that allowed you to either practice investments or go through some sort of simulation with investments,
Sure.
or one of the
Yeah.
other areas that you mentioned?
I think there was hardly a course that didn't do that.
Okay.
Most of the courses are based on what is needed to do the job, at least for me, and then they'll back into the academic side of it, and then they'll throw in
Mhm.
practical application. And I can remember I took financial planning 420, which was a core requirement for my degree. We had mock case studies, so we were using Excel, running projections and backing into clients' proposed retirement dates based on various situations and taxes and estate planning. And so just using all that like academic knowledge and putting it into a neat package, and then I believe presenting it to the class. For me, there was a lot of like practical use. I know when I came to Golden Gate University, just an example, like I thought I was okay with Excel, and then I quickly realized I wasn't, and it just pushed me to a new limit where now I'm much more proficient and able to use what I think the civilian sector considers really a basic tool, but something that I just hadn't learned at the level I needed to do the kind of work that I'm doing now. That's just like a really basic example, but it's something that sticks out at me because it's like it challenged through the coursework. It challenged me to get better and to learn and push me in a direction where the industry needs those skills.
And I suppose that as a professional financial planner, you've used a lot of these tools in your work today. Can you maybe provide a connection between one or two of those lessons and how you use
Sure.
those
Yeah,
in
yeah.
your practice?
Today is a great example. We had a client meeting. There was a question about a specific type of employee benefit account, and I still have my books from when I went to Golden Gate University, and I looked up the specifics and we were able to provide a more comprehensive answer to the client just based on the fact that I remembered what the specific account was, how it worked, and then I had the reference books to look it up. And that's just an example today.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of examples in my life where I rely on that core knowledge that Golden Gate University provided to allow me to get the next level. I have all this training and I have all this knowledge that I acquired. And what it does, it allows me to quickly research something and find an answer without having to go too far and waste too much time. Or it quickly allows me to apply something I learned about in a practical application so that we can do a better product for our clients or something business related or whatever it might be. My education at Golden Gate University is very practical because essentially everything I learned in the university, I used to some degree or another working with clients.
Okay. So, a final question, similar to Barbara's: what advice would you like to give to current and future students from your own experiences at Golden Gate?
Sure. My piece of advice I like to give to current and future students is that one of the most important things for me has been networking. I never considered myself a person who really likes networking. I was a person who maybe not going to be at the center of the party. The first day I went to Golden Gate University, my goal was to meet as many people as possible, to meet people in my industry, to connect with people in person, online, to do informational interviews. I think I would provide the advice for future students or current students is networking starts before the end of college. It starts before the end of your degree. So there's plenty of opportunities even in this Zoom environment to network. LinkedIn is a great service. Like you can just try to connect with people who might be able to provide you some information on your career field. And the idea is not to get a job right away because that's not what networking is about. The goal is to create connections, to be curious, and to ask good questions about how people got from where they are in the past to their present success. So the idea is just to be curious and not to ask for anything, but to just create a place where somebody's like, hey, I know a guy, or I know somebody who's trying to enter the career field, and they'll think of you. Or if they know an opportunity, they'll think of you. Or if you're really looking for an opportunity, you can go out and practice or solicit, opportunities from your network. So my advice is just start networking before you actually need to find a job, because it takes a long time to build up your network, but if a little bit pays off, 10 minutes a day, over 2 years, it's going to be really beneficial to you.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. My career path in terms of Golden Gate University was as a transitioning military officer as I was retiring. So some of these notes might apply to you in terms of reinventing yourself and just always working for continuous improvement. So I found myself about ready to retire. So what did I want to do? And Golden Gate University provided me an opportunity to get my master's in public administration. From there, I took on a public service job, a public sector job, as a transportation manager. Then I worked on getting a further advanced degree. I got my doctorate of public administration from Golden Gate University, and ended up being an adjunct faculty member and then a full-time faculty member. And here I am after 10 years of being on the faculty at Golden Gate University. Now I'm the director of a Doctor of Business Administration program, which is challenging but very satisfying. And I do keep up with some of my former classmates in both the public administration degree and the Doctor of Public Administration degree, and continuing to coordinate with them, network, as Daniel said, and also mentor and coach, as Barbara, you have mentioned. As far as my advice and suggestions for current and future students, listen to what Barbara and Daniel have said about the coaching, the networking, the mentoring, the taking advantage of the different veteran service programs and benefits. You owe it to yourself because you did pay a great deal of service to our nation, and you need to take advantage of those benefits. And you might be at a point where you're also thinking about promotion, and getting a master's degree or an undergraduate degree puts you a step closer to realizing those kinds of dreams. And I would encourage you to continue to improve yourself and obviously to take advantage of those benefits that are out there. You earned them, right? So I want to thank our guests, Barbara Ward and Daniel Tripp. Do you have a final comment you might want to add?
I would just like to say, and this is Barbara, that I have really enjoyed working as an adjunct faculty member for Golden Gate University. I think that's another great way to give back and to help other students, because you're actually modeling. And as was stated earlier, that oftentimes you want to have faculty that have practical, real-life experience, and that really does make a difference.
Okay, thank you, Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would like to say that if you're a transitioning military member, currently in the military, you're a veteran of military forces, if you're looking for an opportunity to change careers, begin your career, find a new path, Golden Gate University is an opportunity for you. If you work hard, you network, you lean on your professors, you give your 110%, which if you're a veteran, you definitely have experience doing that. You can find a new path, and you can be anything you really want to be. And Golden Gate University can be that opportunity you're looking for.
Okay. All right. Thank you again, Daniel and Barbara.
Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Daniel. We are so fortunate to have such wonderful alums. I really love hearing those stories, and I know all of us can benefit from your advice. Thanks for sharing it. Well, everyone, that wraps up our session for today, and we have 2 terrific days to come. I hope you'll join us. Go to the event here on the Facebook page, share it with your friends. Join us here tomorrow at noon Pacific, when we'll be celebrating GGU's current commitment to the military. We'll be talking with students, faculty, and staff who are active members of the community today. Until then, have a great afternoon. We'll see you here tomorrow.